Right then, hello and welcome once again. I'm your mindset coach, Dawood Waeed, and the curriculum designer for the entire Candle series, along with my team at Sky Education. And what we are doing is an audio lesson plan blog of the book Candle Orange. We've done the first two sessions, and hopefully you benefited from it as teachers, as parents, where how do you teach a particular book? And this is the author's version of how and what are elements that have gone into making the book. We've done until the first two ones. We'll start from H, and H, of course, is corresponding with human right, and the theme is core living values. The skill tag that we use is critical thinking, and trust me, today, as a human right value, you do a lot of insightful thinking, which is a critical thinking program. The SDG goal that we want to achieve using this core living value is goal number 16: peace, justice, and responsible institutions. Or the idea is we want to talk about proper programs that you should know your rights, you should know your duties, you should know your responsibility as a citizen. What we've done is we've taken the Human Rights Charter that United Nations General Assembly has declared on 10 December. It is International Human Rights Day that is celebrated. Go ahead and discuss that. Go ahead, use the charts, read the content of it, and what are the main preamble of it. The first one is universal, inalienable, interconnected, indivisible, and non-discriminatory. I know these are very heavy terms, which is why you need to describe them, which is there on H1 as a page. For example, inalienable. It is a right that cannot be alien, cannot be taken away. The word alien is a very simple, inalienable looks a very fashionable word, but it's something which is integral and not alien, not something away from you. Indivisible, it cannot be divided. It cannot be say, oh, you have this right and you don't have this right. It is to be treated in, cannot be treated in isolation. It's a universal right. No prejudice, no one is biasing this, and this is what a human right declaration chart should have, and we talk about that as a teacher. Perhaps you can bring a chart, you can bring up a poster which says what are the rights are. Now, as a part of it, because it is a subject that is very close, the first of the human right, and you can use this as an activity itself, that some, I'm not given there many rights, right? So I've taken up article from 16 to 30, and what we want to do is read them. So the right to get married and have a family, and to the people of your own choice. You can have a multiple discussion only on the topic. The freedom of thought and freedom of expression, 18 and 19, so misaligned, so misunderstood. How about media? How about your individual? If you write a book, if you were to be offensive, would that be, transgressing somebody's right? The right to democracy. Oh, today countries are struggling, authoritarian or monarchic citizenship. What are we talking about? Right to democracy. Or right to play. What do you mean by right to play? Or you should have right to play in school also. The idea is you should have rest. For example, there are labor laws based on right to play. Or something like right to education, RTE, very essential. Everybody should get primary education, and in most of the countries it is declared to be free. Copyright laws, if I were to design a program, or like my book right now, this is a copyrighted book. It's a brainchild of an effort that we spent on few years on making it. If somebody just were to copy it out, what right do we have? Then suddenly you have laws to protect the right. So what we want to do is use these 16 to 30 and pick up what are the two rights that a student is very passionate about. Ask them to draw the rights. It's brilliant. A copyright law can be drawn with just the idea of copying something, lyrics of a song for that matter. Or ask them to share a small 2-minute audio message on it. But you can do a lot of things only on the rights. A little game that I play with teachers and I can do them right is, you ask a small group to pick up any right without showing it and draw it, and the other, it's like a dumb shards, but you show it. An example, a free and a fair world. So you draw a world, and then there are wings around, which is a free and a fair world, and the other should be able to guess it. That way you learn your rights. Right to education is very simple. I simply draw a pencil or a book and I know that. Right to play, I can make a toy, and that way you can really create lovely game around this human right articles. A very interesting activity I designed after watching a movie by Michael Moore, an American documentary filmmaker, Where to Invade Next. I was not sure what the movie is about. So first I'll show you the movie poster here. And this Michael Moore, he says that America has been invading countries like Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria for centuries and years rather. Today, how do we invade countries to learn from them? And he said, we are selfish. So he goes to lovely countries around the world. He goes to Italy. And he says that in Italy, and I only picked up some of the concepts as a class, you must try to watch this movie. It's a very nice movie. Teacher's description is important because at some movie you might want to sanction some part of it. You can show them trailers of the movie or little clips of the movie. But he goes, for example, to Italy, where vacations are mandatory. And I love this. Even, one of my colleague who worked in JP Morgan, he says that his boss, JP Diamond, says you must take vacations. And Italy has that mandatory one. Or something like Slovenia, which talks about free university. We only know Slovenia as lap or Rapunzel or Sleeping Beauty. It's free university. Or France, the way the school lunches are designed, it's brilliant. And they compared the two. By the way, French fries is not from France, it's from America. And Michael Moore, in his own style, does something wonderful. Norway has most humane prisons in the world and the lowest crime rate also in the world. Or for that matter, goal number 5 could be spoken about Tunisia and Iceland. Goal number 5 is gender equality, where Tunisia has so much of women's right and Iceland has a compulsion that 40 to 60% women should be on the board of companies' direction. I've given questions, I've given ideas. You can talk about it. Where are these countries? What are the things you would love to have? What are the other countries you found about? Maybe, for example, I can add something that I work a lot with Japan's Tohoku University, and some of the most disciplined people in the world are the Japanese people. Or some of the most efficient people in the world are German people. Some of the most hospitable people, if you read the book, right, by Greg Mortensen, are the Afghani people. You can talk a lot. People who love their culture, Indians included, Chinese included. You can talk a lot about what you can learn from the world and what rights we learn from. My final activity is a concept called Give Me Some Truth. It's another book cover I've shared with you. Is sometimes, people see things from two perspectives, right? And it's always important to hear both sides of the view. The same message can be relayed in two different ways, and sometimes we don't understand. It's like the Korean War, North and South Korea. But what the media tells us today is North Korea is the evil one. I do not know. Or Iran is the evil one. I have friends who have not gone to North Korea, but Iran, and this is some of the most intelligent people are there. Maybe we're only hearing what the media is telling us. Or rather, we're only hearing one part of the truth. And that is why it's important in human rights. You must hear from both perspectives. I was telling my daughters a little example, a story about David. And, it is said that, two people come to David, and one of them have 99 sheep, other have none. And he said, he has one. And the other one complains, I have 99, he's taken my one. And David says, oh, give it back. And immediately, it's a story, it's a biblical story where these two people vanish and said, no, just because he had more doesn't mean he was right all the time. So you can talk a lot about truth is different ways. One of the concept you can do is you make your school, you make your class into two teams, an American team and a Mexican team. Oh, yes, Breaking Bad and Narcos people. And you say, okay, if there was a big wall being divided, the two countries, how would the Mexicans react? How the Americans react? Or you can talk about the environmental crisis as a country which is doing a lot of production, manufacturing, which is also creating environmental mess, or a country which says, no, we don't want these things. And, interchange it. Don't make it like a debate where people become personal, but make it a conversation. Two very interesting thing would be, give me some truth. Another environmental thing will be vaccination healthcare industry. And I'm actually, people who know my views on vaccination, is it an industry in itself? Is it just for profit making and capitalism? Or actually there's a lot of cure into it? A lot of healthcare, medical facilities, should it be mandatory free? How do you talk about it? In fact, I do an entire session on SDG goal number 3, very interesting conversation, that in some part of China, you pay the doctors a fee only when your health wise stronger. So when you have no disease, you pay the doctor. So it's responsible of doctors to make sure that you are completely away from illness. If you're ill, you don't pay the doctor. Interesting conversation, but that's what human rights in core living values about. I hope my conversation, my blogs, my lessons are helping you make and frame your entire program. This is one more activity under the human rights. Please don't be misled. There's a little, if my topic has TED Talk, no, it is Hustle for Humanity. It's an organization under human rights whose vision and mission statement are given. We are asking students to make their own organization, any name. It could be People for the World. It should be human or being human. Maybe you can use Salman Khan's version of it. But what your organization will stand for, allow them to write a vision. It's a long exercise. Sometimes you can take over a week. for doing this, but these are what I'm telling you is sometimes teacher look at the candle book and say, oh, there's no text. Really, I have been conscious not to push too much of text so that there is conversation that happening. We don't want one spoon feeding solution for everybody. Your class, your region, your area, your conversation will make a difference in how you look at it. I would love students to make a logo of their own human right organization. But if they had to understand hustle for humanity, ask them to Google it. What are the activities? What do they do? It can be a lot of conversation. I remember in my earlier book, I spoke about Greenpeace. The Greenpeace is an environmental entity. So the same way hustle for humanity is for human rights, but Greenpeace is for environment. Let's go to the I one now. The theme is public speaking. Your topic is TED Talk. The skill tag, of course, is effective communication. And when you can communicate very well, you achieve two strong SDG goals: quality education, goal number 4, and decent work and economic growth, goal number 8. In today's time, your communication determines how far you go ahead. Really. And it could be oral, written communication, but honestly, right now we're speaking on oral communication. And I give an example of TED Talk, something I have been implementing in my life, and I strongly recommend for teachers and for students also. Watch one TED Talk per fortnight. And I said week, I say okay, fortnight. That is two per month. That is 24 for the whole year. And you will be richer in your understanding. And TED Talks are 18 minutes. I'm asking you to pay, let's say 20 minutes of your time once in 2 weeks. Can you do that? Trust me, if you can't do that, it is not the lack of will. It's not the lack of will. It's not the lack of time. And this is what I'm talking about. The curator of TED Talk, and someone as a personal hero I consider, Chris Anderson. What he did, he did something amazing. This is an entrepreneur. He could go and make a speech. He can speak well. He's a good author. I've read his book, and this is a book I recommend, Talk Like TED. But how would that make it popular? His speech will be very popular. People who watched it, they would say, wow, wonderful, great. What he instead did, he created a platform. And he said, the best people in any field come and speak. And when they spoke, Chris Anderson became more popular. I'm still waiting to be a TEDx speaker, but yes, I've attended a TED Talk. I've won an award as a social media hero in TED, one of the TED conferences out there. But the beauty of it is TED allows you to hear from fields you are not in. Make a list of fields that a TED Talk can be about, and that's my next activity about. It could be education, it could be biotechnology, it could be space science, it could be political views, it could be authors coming in, it could be a gardener coming in talking, it could be a ex-army person coming and talking. TED Talks are amazing. So this an idea, and he says an idea you would like to share. That's what TED Talk is all about. So what are TED Talks about? He said it could be common sense. Like there is a TED Talk, very famous TED Talk, Every Kid Needs a Champion by Rita Pearson. So go ahead and look at the TED Talk, make categories, make some fun understanding it. And this is one of the first activity I've given you. I've just created some of the most popular TED Talks of all time. One of them is Sir Ken Robinson. Late Sir Ken Robinson is a British educationist. He's written a book also called Creative Classrooms, and I've made an entire workshop for teachers based on that, and they're very powerful. I would, of course, recommend you to listen to the TED Talk, at least mentioned here, but if you can't, as a teacher, bring a little clips of these TED Talks. You can do a YouTube which says best popular most TED Talks. You don't have to do a lot of work. You can play that video itself. Or another one which says a social psychologist, who's Amy Cuddy, her TED Talk on confidence. We can talk about that. Simon Sinek, another very popular speaker, who's very important concept called the Golden Circle. So he has a TED Talk, a book also, but the TED Talk is very powerful. He talks about the why. Why is Martin Luther King and Steve Jobs and the Wright brothers, why did they did inventions and create things that others could not? A great TED Talk to watch. Bernie Brown, she talks about vulnerability. She talks about how sometimes you are not very sure and still that's very good. A little bit ambiguity, a little bit uncertainty actually is good. It makes you human. Tim Urban, a place as I would never hear about sustainable cities, but he speaks about what can you do about, very interesting. Tim Urban actually talks about procrastinator, master procrastinator. When you're always very late, when you're lazy, it's good. Julian Treasure speaks about how to speak itself. Smart, confident, bold man. He speaks about all the things: posture, voice modulation, eye contact. Interesting TED Talk. Make a list of your favorite TED Talk. At least listen to these ones, and then make which one did you like. Even from the summary of it, you can talk about it. Another 3 that I want to speak about is Bill Gates TED Talk about what could be the next outbreak. And actually, after the COVID-19, it was surprising that this was so relevant. In fact, my next activity is also on Bill Gates, but there is one on Cameron Russell. She's a model and she says, looks aren't everything. Very interesting. She says, I got a genetic lottery, and very all those self-conscious teenagers and all those with low self-esteem issues, you should listen to Cameron Russell. Or Robert Waldinger, what is the secret of happiness? He did a lot of secret of happiness. You can talk about Ikigai, but people who are happier live longer. Very interestingly, of course, we know about the depression and that can take you. My second activity is specifically on Bill Gates TED Talk, and here I recommend watching this TED Talk. I've also asked you to watch about Ryan Gosling's Han Rosling's. Ryan Gosling is the actor. Han Rosling's one on population one. I recommend you to watch Bill Gates one. Where actually in the end it's a surprise, but he actually reveals, or he lets some mosquitoes fly away. And he says these are harmless mosquitoes. Very interesting TED Talk. Bill Gates, the beauty of it is he's not known to be a very good speaker. He's not Steve Jobs, right? He's not Elon Musk. He's not very charismatic, which is why this TED Talk is very important. When you prepare for your TED Talk, backed by real work, people will listen to you. It makes big help if your bank balance is also very heavy. Right? Make a list of things you learned about the talk, what way he spoke, his confidence, his foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Very interesting talk that you want to speak about, and listen to it. Finally, you are preparing your own TED Talk, and I think it's something even teachers should do. If I will tell you to speak something, what are your favorite topics? In fact, I've written down some of my favorite topics. An idea, remember, TED Talk is an idea you want to share with the world. What is that idea you want to share with the world? What is the idea worth sharing? What are the bullet points? What would the title of your TED Talk be? Would you be confident or nervous? It's okay to have butterflies in the stomach, but it's important to start. I love the idea of challenge 1. Challenge 2 is if you want to nominate somebody to give a TED Talk. It could be a parent, coach, family doctor, a sibling, just not put them in the sea and let them sink. Tell them, why do you think they are good enough to give a TED Talk? It could be just a gardener whose story has to be heard. And this is really interesting conversation. I hope it takes more than 3 weeks, but your conversation should be around these skills of public speaking. When I talk of public speaking, a favorite topic of mine, I've done series for students on public speaking. Sometimes we think it's only about talking. It's also about understanding how and what to talk about. Right then, JKLM, and I'll just do J today in this whole thing. Goal setting, another very important topic we talk about. And today in goal setting, we speak about focus. You look at the bullseye and say, oh, why is focus so important? The skill is self-awareness. How focused am I? And the SDG goals, again, are 4 and 8. We're talking about this, that focus is a framework you based on. The content is there. As a teacher, you will read the content. You'll make them highlight. You'll talk about goals. But the key to this is this very important framework. Your goals. So I go back a little. The word focused itself is an acronym. And I decode the word focus as an acronym here. FOCUSED. Focus is future oriented. Your goals have to be something that is happening. You should be optimistic. Oh, I have a goal, but I don't think I'll achieve it. That's not a good goal setting. It should be something that is challenging enough. Like recording a video. It is tough. I'm spending an hour learning, preparing before I come down, but it's exciting, isn't it? It should be unforgettable, but not necessarily all the time, but something that you want to achieve, significant. Energizing, yes, goals should give you the adrenaline and the Red Bull, and it should have a deadline when you want to achieve. So you can speak a lot about it. Make sure to remember what the acronyms are. Goals must be, enjoyable as the journey is, but also should be challenging. As I always say, if you're climbing a mountain, enjoy the climb, because once you reach the summit, the next thing is you go down. So what are your focus goals? Ask your students what the focus goal could be. It's a conversation you can do a lot of time. And I give you a practical example of Warren Buffett. It's not an activity yet, but you can divide it into different weeks. Warren Buffett is a philanthropist, is an analyst, is a stock marketer, is a businessman, an entrepreneur. He has, imagine how many goals. So his rule is 525. He said 25 things you want to do, circle the top 5. No more, no less. And then you go all out to achieve the 5 rules that you have got. So make a list of 25 things you want to achieve. It could be making your own, as I say, YouTube channel, or singing a song, or learning how to ride a bike, or swim, or pass your exams. Your goals could be something you are challenge yourself and you enjoy the goals. What activity can I do on focus goal setting in J4? Well, I teach you a very nice management technique. It's called the affinity diagram. a tool that gathers lots of knowledge and from different things, data, opinion, issues, and then you see where affinity is. It's a brainstorming tool, right? So affinity diagram, you can Google it in more detail. It's a tool to make an informed decision. Take up a topic, right? A topic could be something that is important. So my affinity diagram right now is picking up an ideal restaurant for your family. Let's say Warren Buffett was my activity one. This is my activity two, because I'll divide this activity in two parts. So affinity diagram is all the opinions have to come in, because you have to be focused. You have to find out, so who are your family members, or what kind of food you prefer. Is it vegetarian, non-vegetarian? Today I decide, oh, I just want to have a Lebanese food, or I want to have Malwan food, I want to have seafood, I want to have a proper salad based food, anything. And I'll talk about salad also. The budget, are you swigging it? Are you calling from Zomato? Are you going ahead? What time of the day is it? It could be even, breakfast meal or brunch, as they say. And then you plan it around. That's an affinity diagram, and you make a decision. A part two of the activity is something I've been asking a lot of students to do in a lot of activities, is creating a logo. So let's say you have decided now, you have decided to open a restaurant of your own, or you decide to go to this Indian restaurant in the United Kingdom, in UK. The Indian food doesn't look very good in India, so you've created one in UK. What logo would you choose? And in this, I have given you the option of the logos. The student only have to make a choice and why of it. And maybe you can push them to make a logo of your own if you had to choose. It would be the Taj Mahal, as maybe the UK people call, or the lovely elephant out there, or this monk with the fire in the belly, or a simple, a pot out there called Indian restaurant, Indian food restaurant. I hope it's interesting. And my last activity on this J5 on focus is something that all of you have flown, have a little of turbulence, you would have attended, or you would have at least experienced once. Have you seen those pilots, the air hostess and air host making announcement? I'm not focused right now, right? So the air host, how do you make an announcement? What is the announcement list? Make a list, recall from the memory what announcement list. Emergency exits are there. How do you inflate? Put the face mask, put the oxygen mask on yours first, and then on the children. Talk a lot about it. And then we say, look at this sheet and write it down. And I will really have fun if you can ask your students to make a video of them being the air hostess and making an announcement. And there is no shame. Air host with gold. Number 5, gender equality. You have to experience it. And in fact, there's a lovely, if you just I leave you with this little nice thing. If you can Google, or if you can put on YouTube, right, about Air New Zealand. Air New Zealand has done this entire in-flight thing very interestingly, with the whole theme of the Lord of the Ring trilogy. So there's a hobbit, there are the people around, the elves and the dwarves, and each of them are making a announcement of the flight. It's fun, it's interesting. I hope that helps you understand where your goals would be, your priorities would be. Until that time, good luck, goodbye. Enjoy the Candle curriculum.